I do enjoy listening to you, India.
Arsenal win back possession, and it's broken nicely to Cazorla. 30 metres from goal, plays it to the edge of the area. Alexis Sanchez goes for goal and scores. That's a brilliant goal from Alexis Sanchez. He's been Arsenal's star man this season, and maybe now they're going to get the ball.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Gooners in the USA. Mike, we won!
Yes, we did. We did. We won a game.
We did!
I love how you say ladies and gentlemen. Like,
it's like
there's
our moms.
There's two ladies.
And then essentially Danny from ABW that listened to us.
And gentleman is essentially is very generous terminology as well. But without any further ado, yes, we did win a game. I'm 1-0 since I'm back in the States. That's about the only good thing that's happened. Cause
you know when our season started going down the shitter, Mike, is when you stopped taking your mammoth walks.
That is absolutely right. I was hoping no one was going to notice that. It was the day of the Middlesborough game, the first one, which was the day of my son's bar mitzvah. I didn't take my walk that day. I couldn't. I promised I would take a huge walk when I went to London, and I never did that. And I've just done nothing but eat and not walk since. And anyone who's seen me recently could tell. And Mr. Non-Superstition, I think that was the end of our good run this season. So
yeah, so you're to blame. And
I am.
I say Mike out.
And on top of that,
hashtag Mike out.
And not only did I ruin the season, but I'm fat as shit now. So you'd think I would be compelled to do something about that, but maybe next year.
You should just drink green tea 3 meals a day for the next month.
I've been eating pizza every single day and lamb kebabs in an attempt to get Arsene Wenger out of the club. Apparently.
So, Mike, you spent the last, let's say, 2.5 to 3 weeks in Europe. How was it for you, and what type of withdrawal symptoms did you have from not being able to get your hands on a Baconator?
The food was not an issue. Baconator, Schmaconator. There's much better food in Europe. It was all lamb. It was all fish and chips, and for some reason in Germany it wasn't so much bratwurst. It was these baguette sandwiches on these tiny little amazing baguettes with butter and ham and cheese or salami. I must have had and forget that it's Passover and I'm not supposed to be having any bread.
Oh, you're the worst Jew I've ever met.
Yeah, Jew in Germany during Passover eating bread, and it was. And listening to people at Dortmund's shouting out really angry-sounding German, which I know it wasn't angry.
Hey, man, if there's one way for you to say fuck you to Hitler, it's doing what you just did.
You know what? That's a good point. Thank you very much for pointing.
And so you should not feel guilty about that.
Yep. And I think we've just titled the podcast "Fuck You, Hilter." I just called him Hilter. Can't even say the guy's name. So I have to ask. Is it Middlesborough? Is it Middlesbrough? Is it Middlesbrough if you're from certain parts of the country? I mean, what is the correct pronunciation? Mr. Brit.
I know it is Middlesbrough.
Middlesborough.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I got this wrong a couple times last week. I want to get it right. So it's like Middlesbrough. Like, what's up, bro?
If I had a bell for every time you pronounce something wrong, Mike.
You would have multiple bells.
I would. All right, let's move on.
It's not that you would ring the bell each time. It's that you would collect another bell every time.
Yeah, I'm not ringing any bells. I'm just collecting them.
You'd be drowning in bells.
Oh, shit. Let's go to the game.
Okay.
I cannot tell you the last time I was this excited before an Arsenal match.
Were you in sweatpants?
People couldn't see that I was fully torqued. No, unfortunately. But the optimism, the joy that was just surrounding the Arsenal globe when we saw that this lineup was just something completely different that we'd never seen before. I mean, Mike, how and what were you thinking when I text you what in the holy fuck is happening to Arsenal and then sent you the lineup?
Well, I didn't get to see the lineup I saw the text. I didn't see the lineup right away because I was on a phone call. So I'm like, now what happened? and then when I saw the lineup, you said something about 3 in the back, and I just thought you were talking about a porn movie that you wanted me to check out. But it just seemed a little bit bizarre. I mean, like, everyone's been calling for an adaptation or a change or some sort of development or evolution from Arsene Wenger, and then when he makes a move, everyone's like, whoa, slow down. It seemed like, like if your old geezer grandfather just showed up at your house one day with his hair slicked back and a Corvette with a cigarette dangling out of his mouth, and of course he never used to smoke. I mean, I was torn because I was impressed with his lack of stubbornness.
Wait, are you saying that this lineup was his midlife crisis?
It seemed like someone who just snapped completely over to the other side, like held off. I was half expecting him to have used all 3 subs by the 19th minute tactically, the way he went about this. In fact, he didn't even use all 3 of his subs, but you can't have it both ways. So even though, as we'll talk about, the performance wasn't necessarily that great, and I don't even know that the 3 in the back necessarily is ready for prime time yet, it was nice to see him at least make some changes in both the personnel and the formation.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing for me taking away this lineup was when you're looking at Arsene doesn't go into the press and slate his players, and that's one of the reasons why players like playing for him. But I feel like this lineup and dropping certain individuals was kind of you're not doing enough. The Danny Welbecks, the Theos, right? Absolutely. And when I saw the lineup, I thought, okay, there's optimism here because we're getting to see Rob Holding play. That was a big one for me. And I thought to start the game, we looked jovial. It looked like a team that wanted to go out there and experiment and do well. And as the game kind of progressed and as Middlesborough were hitting those long balls over top, you could see our defensive frailties kind of take shape again. And maybe that's just because it's a new formation. It's funny because a friend texted me and said, do you think this is something they've worked on during the week, or do you think this was a 8 a.m. Arsene woke up and went, we're changing formation? And I said, I hope it's not the latter. And then after the match, he did his little interview on NBC and said that they had been working on this for a few weeks and he just wasn't sure when to release it. I think that's
not what I heard. He may have said that, but I've also heard some players. I think it might have been actually Rob Holding saying that they kind of practiced it one or 2 days during the week. And that was it.
Yeah.
He wasn't even out there as one of the defenders. One of the times they were practicing it, it seemed like it was maybe a little bit, last
minute. Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I think what he was saying was just purely for PR semantics, and that there was actually no prep. Now, at the end of the day, Mike, these are professional footballers, and they live and breathe the game, and they probably watch as much football on TV as the rest of us because they have so much downtime. You would think that outside of a few tweaks, getting thrown into a lineup like that shouldn't be that big of a deal. At the end of the day, they're paid professionals. They should kind of be able to morph into that type of a lineup without any problems.
Yeah, but I also think that the amount of game planning that opponents do, I mean, they should be able to, but at the level that they're playing, if they're not comfortable with we've seen how our guys zonal mark when they've presumably practiced it a lot. If you haven't practiced the locations and the communication and the understanding between where players are going to be, and you have 2 less guys back or 1 less guy back, depending on whether your wingbacks have committed upfield, you could really get exposed, I think. So I don't know that they should just be able to adapt and plug into any lineup. I would have expected some issues at the back in this game, and that's exactly what we saw.
Well, if there was ever a game to change the lineup, I think playing Middlesbrough was definitely that, because they don't have the threat. I highly doubt we'll see a 3-5-2 at the weekend, but
that would be ballsy.
But to start the game, the Ox, yet again, was superb. I mean, he was playing on an ice rink for, it seemed like, the first 15 minutes. Every other time he got the ball, he fell over and slipped.
Yeah, and he got carded 3 minutes into the game, which is worried me.
His first card of the season. But again, you had kind of mentioned to me, playing in another position and doing very well at it. I mean, he is just excelling right now at the club, and I thought he was absolutely superb on the day.
He's doing everything right. I mean, the one thing he's learned from Theo Walcott is to really turn it on when it matters most in contract.
He's doing everything Theo. He's doing the opposite of Theo Walcott. He's an anti-Theo.
Well, he's playing for a contract, or he's playing for a move, but I don't get that he's doing it in a kind of a dicky way, I think, or a selfish way. He's turned it on at the right time. I mean, we talked just a few weeks ago about who our MVP of the year was, who the almost MVP would be after Alexis. And I don't know that I don't recall whether we mentioned Ox or not, because he'd been out of the lineup too much. He was being used as a late substitute too much. He's coming on pretty strong for that role right now.
100%. And barring the end of the match where he could have had definitely an assist or at least a better shot on goal, he was pretty much flawless the entire match, and he deserves to be in the squad, whether it's right wing, central mid, right left back. I just made up a position. Goalie, right left back. He deserves to just be playing, and hopefully it long continues. Let's move on to the goal, Mike. Sanchez gets a free kick. Absolutely beautifully taken. That's what we've come to expect from him with set pieces.
Who earned the free kick? It was dude was like poleaxed and flipped around.
Wasn't it Ramsey? I don't remember.
I don't remember. I just remember it was a pretty heavy contact, and I'm like, well, if this is a goal, that he just took one for the team. But
yeah, maybe it was the shine of the lights off of Guzan's head, but that motherfucker did not move. He was a statue watching that ball go in.
That American son of a bitch. He was probably deciding after all this time whether he should have gone full Brad Friedel with that bogus accent, and then just completely forgot that Alexis was setting up to take a free kick, because there was nothing he could do about it. As our goalie expert, Andy, which is the reason that we decided to bring you on to the podcast, if you remember how everything got started.
I do.
Yes. On a free kick from that area, is there always one perfect pathway that if you can get the ball struck just right, there's no way to stop it, regardless of the wall, regardless of the positioning or the quality of the keeper? I mean, is that always the case, or does there have to be a mistake made on the defensive side or some luck in order to make it happen like that?
I think it's a combination of everything. That's
the easy answer.
Well, luck to get the free kick perfectly struck, but Guzan, your wall is there to cover half of the goal, and to essentially, obviously, block the player's ability to put it over. But what was weird for me, and I guess I didn't really go back and watch it too much, but it seems as though Guzan was standing a little bit behind his wall more than he was in that space where he should. If he was 2 steps to the right, he would have caught that ball. Maybe he didn't hear the whistle go. Maybe he didn't see Sanchez start his run up. I don't know. But I think that to answer your question, it's a bit of everything. But I tell you what, I would not have been standing in the position Guzan would have been standing whatsoever. I would have forced Sanchez to see me in the open space and then forced him to take that ball and put it over the wall.
Well, and that's why he plays for a team like Middlesborough, and you play for the team that you play for.
Justin's co-ed. Hey, man, our co-ed football team, okay?
What's the name of the team? Give a plug.
Thunderstones, I think. It's fucking terrible.
I didn't even know the name. I took a chance that the name might be awesome, and I would look like the asshole.
Dude,
but no, I won.
I suggested.
You think you know the name, like you say it like you think that's the name. You know that's the name.
It's either.
You're just trying to act cool.
No. It's either Thunderstones or Thunderballs. I can't remember. But I suggested "Bite the Pillow, Bitch, We're Coming in Dry," and Justin said that was inappropriate.
Especially because it's a 6 and over co-ed league,
right? Yeah, we play with children, and we all know our co-ed team. Man, last year lost in the semifinals. Okay,
Yes.
Went undefeated during league play. I mean, we're decent. We have a doubleheader tonight.
All right. Are we adding a segment to this podcast now?
There is no segue except for last week. Some fucker in Tottenham shorts scored on me twice.
Oh, you shouldn't have mentioned that.
Yeah.
We're to end this right here.
Yeah, we should.
All right, so I mean, Sanchez, if there is a perfect way to hit a free kick, he seems to do it a lot. Let's just put it that way.
Well, for us in Chile, he does, yes.
That's very nice.
The two teams he plays for.
The two teams he plays for at the moment. Yeah. So then what happened? We let in a goal.
We did let in a goal, Mike.
And I exercised my tactical brilliance, which doesn't exist, in personally deciding to blame Nacho Monreal for that goal. It looked like when he was defending against, or when anyone defends against Arjen Robben, except instead of shooting it into the corner, it was a perfect pass that Koscielny really couldn't do much about. But to me, you got to close that guy down before he can just get in a cross like that.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. You know what's funny is I was going to segue, and then I put a giant piece of food in my mouth, and then you...
But you had no choice but to listen to my question.
No, which was great. That's teamwork makes the dream work. Anyway, Nacho was kind of... Okay, first of all, Sanchez should not have done what he did to give up the ball in possession. Okay, let's get that out. He's not perfect. Nacho had to sprint his ass back, and I don't know if he just overrun it, but yeah, like Arjen Robben, you should know Stuart Downing has just one fucking foot. But Koscielny, for me, I mean, what was he doing? Yet again, we get beat in the air. And instantly, Mike, after that goal went in, I was like, someone on Twitter is going to blame Gabriel, and it was Piers Morgan. I'm like, how the fuck is it Gabriel's fault? Dude wasn't even anywhere. He was goal side of his player. And Koscielny, no one will blame Koscielny for being shit in the air. They won't. No one will do it.
Piers Morgan coming on the pod next week. No, I'm just kidding. That is one guess that we don't care to have. Yeah, he'll blame people who aren't even on the pitch for the goal.
But you're right. I mean, Nacho is poor decision not to play him on his right foot. But as the cross was taken off of his left foot, Nacho was like correcting his body. And so at the end of the day, we just have such defensive frailties in the back that it's shitty. And we need help back there. And I don't know if it's just better coaching or if we need to bring in better defenders. But
like that free guy who apparently is or isn't coming to the club, the God Bosnian.
Transfer rumors are bullshit until they're on our. Yeah. Until they're on our.
I don't know why that one gained so much traction because it certainly lost it as quickly as it came. But let's not get off track.
No. Let's go to Ozil, second goal.
We did win.
We did. Let's go to Ozil, second goal, because for me it doesn't happen. And hats off to the Welshman for the beautiful chess ball to Ozil, and a great finish by Ozil. Has to have the ability to put that in the back of the net because he's tight angle. Everything's happening super quick. But for me, Ramsey was outstanding.
You're just trying to repair your relationship with Jason Davies right now. I can see that, but yeah, I mean that was it was a great move. You had just tweeted literally 10 seconds before that happened, just asking if Alexis had completed a pass in the last 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. And when you tweeted that, he hadn't.
Nope.
And then a second later, he completed, an excellent ball to Rambo. And it seems like Rambo's finally picked up on the fact that as long as he uses anything other than his feet or his hands to pass the ball, everything will be just fine.
Yeah.
Those are the two things he shouldn't be using. One because it's against the rules, and the other because it doesn't seem to work. But as long as he uses his chest, penis, shoulder, anus, whatever it is, we're going to score more goals.
No, we are. And I thought Ramsey played really well yesterday. To be honest with you, a lot of people thought he went missing, but I think he did absolutely great. And you're right. When he isn't trying to shoot every time he gets possession of the ball, he's a
cross the ball with a Rabona instead of just a regular cross, which got me into some trouble complaining about 2-3 months ago. But no, I mean, did another Rabona pass, by the way, in a Marseille game this weekend. I happened to be watching some of it on the plane home, and he did it again. It wasn't a shot, and it wasn't an assist, but he loves the Rabona more than Ramsey, I think.
Yeah, maybe. Mike,
so
did you perceive the post-match celebrations from our players? Maybe a little bit
Contrived?
Yeah, but also seemed like there was a big weight lifted off of their shoulders, that they got 3 points. For the fans mostly, because they kept talking about that. But what did you think of it? Do you think it was more relief, or do you think it was just, again, for the cameras?
Well, I was obviously interested in us closing out the win and hearing the final whistle, but then I really started staring at the screen because I wanted to see, having witnessed what I did a week before at Crystal Palace, I was fascinated, and knowing what was different about this game than that one, which is the extensive travel, the time of night, and all of that. I just really wanted to see what the interaction was, and especially if we had lost, what would the interaction have been? But I'm glad that we didn't. It was a relief. I mean, Alexis specifically seemed it was a little bit contrived. It was to me, but contrived in a way that at least it is better than when it's contrived in a negative way. When he's throwing tantrums and running off the field, and I think he's trying to send a different message. It was a little bit of a mea culpa on the players' part, and I think it was a welcome one. And their comments after the game, which we'll get to in a minute because I know you want to talk about that, reflect the fact that they're not going to slate the fans for the abuse and for the frustration that they felt the last week. They're going to take it to heart and do something about it. And post game, Alexis gave his kit to a kid, which is always a really, really cool thing. He entered Chambo forcibly from behind at one point, which was just, it was so sweet to see that.
But he kicked him in the ass to let him know it was coming.
Yeah. There was gifting, there was fisting, there was, everything. A happy Alexis is a better Alexis than the waving goodbye, tantruming Alexis we saw the week before. So I thought it was a very special release of, Jesus, let's just all reset and get back on the same page, and whatever happens, happens, but we can't let it be like it was last week anymore. And the players took responsibility.
Yeah, and Ramsey had said on U.S. television that the players did have a meeting. I don't know if the coaching staff were in said meeting, but he did say the players did sit down and discussed the performances on the pitch, and that the chants from the fans were heard loud and clear. And I appreciate that, they did obviously have that conversation, and then you hear the Ox after the match with his post-match comment saying, "Thank you to the fans for traveling. We owe you better." Pretty much the same thing Ramsey said too. His quote was, "We're Arsenal. We should never play that bad. We had a meeting, we talked about our performances, and we all agreed that we have to step it up." Now, obviously, a meeting like that shouldn't have to take place. They should just be good enough to acknowledge the fact that they were shit and move on.
But it's better to have it than not to have it, though.
It is. And I really hope that the coaching staff were not included in that meeting. I hope that the players were just solo. And the weird thing about this team, Mike, is it's not like the players are fighting with one another or they're at each other's heads, because you see them all the time on social media where they're out bowling or having dinner with one another. And so they seem like a pretty close-knit bunch. But I think it's important for them to recognize that they are getting paid by the supporters and that they need to step up their performance. It's important for them to understand that. And then kind of to supplement the thought is when Arsene comes out and essentially calls Theo Walcott's comments inappropriate. And I really was shocked to see that as well, that he came out in public and into the press and said that. And they totally were. We talked about
I think he said unacceptable. Which is exactly right. Unacceptable.
Yeah, no, but it's like you hear him say, there's a common denominator, and that's we want to win and so do the fans, right? And we all need to get on the same page. But it's nice to see our manager come out and say, you know what, he shouldn't have said that. It was unacceptable. And obviously his comments have gotten him benched for the rest of the season, and we will never see Theo play again in an Arsenal shirt. And that's okay with me.
Whether they truly feel that way or not, and I think that they do. I saw Ox's comments today. There was a 2-minute interview, and he said all the right things, and he really seemed to mean it, especially on a night with that much travel and late. You got to give give a thumbs up to him for how he addressed the fan and their level of play recently. And look, the level of play yesterday wasn't what it needed to be. I mean, they beat Middlesborough 2-1 and only barely, and that's a team that is probably playing at a level right now where they would be mid-table in the championship. So, I mean, it's the test will be this weekend. They certainly still owe the fans better than what they did yesterday, but they're headed in the right direction. And I would die to be a fly on the wall during those team meetings. I mean, just what goes on in there? I mean, like, who steps up and does the talking?
Well, in my opinion, it's probably Murder Soccer. That would probably be the one that would call the meeting. So that would be my guess. And is it like a classroom, like a middle school classroom, like where you got one person sitting there laughing nervously, you got one person cutting a huge one right in the middle of it and clearing out the room for a few minutes? I mean, would you pay? How much would you pay to attend one of these meetings if they sold tickets? Oh, a lot. But Mike, I mean, the grand scheme of things is we're getting better at this PR thing from a player perspective. You know, we talked about who would be your captain, right, last week on the pod. And you look at the performances on the pitch. You want a player. Someone mentioned Sanchez on the same old Arsenal podcast because of the way he works on the field and his energy and whatnot. But then you or someone else was like, well, yeah, but then he acts like a little bitch. So is that really who we want to have as our captain? Well, you look at the way the Ox is talking in the media, you look at the way the Ox is performing on the field, and you're thinking, like, is this a future captain? And these comments, don't forget, came the same week that he's been heavily linked to signing a deal with Liverpool.
Oh, God.
And
please no.
I don't think that we would sell him. He can't leave on a free because I believe he expires next summer.
He's in that same group with Ozil and Alexis that expires next summer. But we got to lock him down this summer. We can't have him going into
100%. But these don't seem like the comments of a player who's done at Arsenal. They seem like a player who wants to stay and who wants to step up and be a leader on this team, and that's what we've been desperately seeking for the majority of the season, so I hope it long continues.
Yeah, I agree. And you've, by the way, you've just given a perfect – I mean, the title of the Arsenal 2016-17 DVD for the season is going to be Arsenal 2016-17, We're Getting Better at PR. That's going to be – the who wants to know? The Spurs put out DVDs every 5 minutes when something good happens to them. I don't even want to see what their DVD looks like this season, but that's ours. And on the flip side, speaking of £30 million going out the window, Jack Wilshere is out for the season with another ankle injury suffered against Tottenham for Bournemouth. And doesn't that just fucking suck?
Yeah, it does.
Out for the rest of the season, but given his injury record, it wouldn't surprise me if it goes well into next season.
Well, with there being less than a month, I can't see a quick recovery. The nice thing here, Mike, is this summer, there isn't a ton of international, even though he probably wouldn't have had that anyway, but he needs a break.
Oh, he won't play at all this summer, but I mean, this was the summer to figure out, is he going to play a part on our squad, or is he going to be sold for what would hopefully be a reasonable amount of money that we could reinvest in our squad and just wipe our hands of the whole thing? And now it looks like neither is going to be.
What would be nice is to re-sign Jack in a role where he is a rotation player, a squad player. We know he's good enough. We've always known he's good enough.
But that's why we loaned him this season, because that wasn't the position he wanted to be in, and that's not.
He needs to evaluate his career. Then, does he want to stay at the team he loves and be a squad player when he's healthy, or does he want to go somewhere like Bournemouth and still have to fight to get in the team and then still only play when he's healthy? I think that what we should do is sign him and say, Jack, when you're healthy, you're going to push for a starting position, but that's not going to stop us from going out and buying some depth at that central midfield area and saying to him, you have to fight like everyone else. That's been our biggest problem, is we sit back and we just hope these players remain healthy. And even Ramsey, again, has had a season that's been just muddled with injury. Theo has kind of been dipping in and out. The Ox is really the only player that's actually gone through the season relatively healthy compared to past back-to-back seasons.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it sucks. I personally don't want to see Jack leave. I don't want to sell him. I want him to extend. But you're right, Mike. I mean, that's if he is going to leave, that's a lot of money. But do you really think he's going to leave for £30 million to a club like Bournemouth? They're not going to pay that for him.
I had heard West Ham was starting to sniff around for him at levels around that, and that move wouldn't kill me. Honestly, I mean, I love Jack as much as the next, as much as the next guy who loves people who smoke and are healthy twice a year. But I mean, at his best, he's amazing. But I think it's time to move on. And what kills me about this injury is it's going to paralyze and handcuff us from being able to do that. For God knows how long. And I feel bad for the guy. I mean, he needs leg transplants.
Yeah.
These ankles are not going to last.
No, they're not. They're not. And whoever.
I'm no doctor, but I play one on the podcast. And something. Here's a proclamation. I'm going to go out on a ledge and say his ankles are kind of fucked up.
Yeah, they are a bit fucked. They are a bit fucked, Mike.
And that's all I've got to say about that.
Speaking of Jax, I can't confirm, Mike, if this is his real name, but I'm thinking it is. We got a listener question from Jackosaurus.
You got a lot of listener questions today.
We did get a lot of listener questions.
It's from Jackosaurus, who I see his name pop up on Twitter all the time, and it's an amusing Twitter ID. So we're glad to have a question from him. What is it?
His question is, do you think the rivalry with Tottenham doesn't mean as much to overseas fans as it does to locals?
That is a frequently discussed topic amongst Arsenal America people, and I don't think there's any question that it doesn't mean as much to people who didn't grow up in North London. I mean, by locals, if we mean people who grew up around the North London area, not just people in England who are fans, but or Wales who are fans, I should say, or Plymouth or any of those areas. But
you can list all the cities. Keep going.
Okay. If you haven't been to a North London derby at White Hart Lane, and I haven't, and been spit, but I've heard of people getting spit at and hit or called really, really mean names. But I mean, that being said, it has become very important to most people overseas who have really pursued an intense relationship with Arsenal. It's just that it's a learned behavior. It's not an ingrained one. So the hate you grow up with is always going to be much more intense than the hate you learn. And so I can't question the fact that, people who grow up and are from that area and spent that time just learning through being abused and the hatred, the mutual hatred, it's always going to mean a lot more. That said, it's always a controversy about whether finishing ahead of them is more important than our own glory, and that's something that arises every year. And this year in particular, it's unlikely to be an argument that that dies down anytime soon.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think it means as much to overseas fans, but I don't think it means nothing either. I think it means a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah, I grew up in the area, and it's a tough one to answer because I moved to America when I was so young, but I was raised by a family that supported Arsenal and hated Tottenham, and so it was ingrained at a young age that you despised everything about him. I think the only generation in my family that didn't go Arsenal were my grandfather and my dad, and that's just because everyone else was. But they didn't go Tottenham, even though they're from that area. They went West Ham and Chelsea.
So are you implying that you gained more of your personality from the female side of your family?
Well, as I said to my granddad this weekend, I'm recalibrating the family and the tradition of being an Arsenal supporter. But that explains a lot. When you look at the rivalry from an American perspective, going into a pub when Arsenal and Tottenham are playing, you do see a lot of rival fans in there. You do see them singing against one another. You do see people getting a little bit riled up. And so I do think the rivalry matters. But like you said, I don't think it's ingrained. I think it's a learned behavior.
Sometimes people can take learned behaviors like on the other side of reason.
Oh yeah,
like why are you this upset when you don't have a reason to be, and just someone's just told you that you're supposed to be?
Isn't hate a learned behavior? And that's what we're talking about. I mean, you learn very quickly how to hate something or someone, and so The weird thing for me, Mike, is living in America. Like, why are there Americans who are Tottenham supporters to begin with? Because there's nothing for them to have celebrated over the last. Like,
it's because they've had 2-3 American players play for them,
right? And that's the only reason.
It.
That's the only reason.
But and there's an American sports franchise with the same nickname, and so when they're looking at Bolton Wanderers and Wigan Athletic and Plymouth Argyle and Tottenham Spurs, that's a name that jumps out at them. I'm guessing, but those people are idiots.
I do love the Tottenham fan that say the North London rivalry is changing and that they're coming. It's like, fuck off. You know what? Talk to me in 20 years when you've won the league titles we have, the FA Cups we have, and you've finished above us consecutively. You fucking cunts. Moving on, Mike.
Yes. How do we pronounce this one?
Eoin? I was thinking it would be like coin, so Eoin.
Eoin? Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, we're sorry we're botching this. Happy with the result, but the big question is, will Arsene still go for the good of the club? Andy.
I hope so. I really do. But who the fuck knows? I think it's interesting, Mike, that through the last 2 weeks, all of the people that we've interviewed, John Cross, Gab Marcotti, all these people that are in a little bit more powerful and a little bit more embedded within the society of sports journalism, they have no clue what's happening. And so I still think that the contract's on the table and it literally won't be signed until May. What bothers me, Mike, and this is going a little bit off the question, is have you seen the quotes that have recently come around from Ivan last year when he said, Arsene's contract is almost up, we will not leave it until last minute, we will have a replacement in place before he decides that he's going to leave. I think that was a fucking lie.
He should just not, he doesn't say anything very often because when he does,
it's a lie.
It comes back to haunt him.
Yeah.
Every statement he's ever made has turned out to be like Donald Trump's, where he tweeted something 4 years ago and now he's doing the exact thing that he criticized 4 years ago. It's just, he shouldn't make any type of proclamations. I'd like for him to make proclamations and then kind of follow up with them, but there's growing word that he is starting to be on the verge of being on Wenger out himself, and it's going to come down to a power struggle and a PR struggle and all that stuff. But I don't see a road yesterday, regardless, and unless yesterday turns into a movement of adaptation, and I don't think it's possible with him. It's easy to put a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-3 out there and say that you've adapted and make it work. But I still think it's passed him by. I don't see a road for him to be an effective manager, but I don't think that means he's going to go, and I certainly don't think that he's going to leave in what he believes to be a move that's good for the good of the club. I think he thinks what's for the good of the club is for him to stay and turn this around and then leave the club on a high. And I just don't think that's going to happen. After Palace, I thought it was just a done deal that there was no way forward, but the guy is like the fucking Undertaker. Just kicking out of people's finishing moves, and he's changing lineups, he's tweaking things, he's twerking. I'm as clueless as I've ever been about what he's going to do. And
Mike, here's the scenario where I will be okay if Arsene signs a 1-year extension with us. Okay, we beat City this weekend, we get Tottenham in the final, and we beat them. Then we beat Tottenham.
Wouldn't that be the best time to leave, though?
But hold on, we beat Tottenham in the league in a few weeks to derail whatever chance they have of overtaking Chelsea, putting Tottenham literally in a position where they only finish above us, and that's all they get. That would be the only way I would say, Arsene, you can extend for 1 more year because you fucked them over, and there we go, the rivalry of being ingrained. But
yeah, I was going to say, because that's been a constant debate. You're taking some short-term fuckery of Tottenham and exchanging a year delay and the impact of our transfer policy this summer, when who knows, anyone that's coming in has no idea who their manager is going to be a year or two later. I don't think that there's any. I think that's a situation that could happen. I just don't think that would be good for the team.
Yeah,
and I would be okay with it.
No, he needs to go. It's time, and hopefully we do bring in an Allegri type player manager because fuck me, Mike, Juventus look good. Okay, football nutter DK, aka Roger Kendrick asks, where did Giroud bury Lucas Perez, and aren't Boro just another West Ham? And to that I say yes, Boro are just another West Ham, and this win does not paint over the cracks. But my takeaway, Mike, was how happy and relieved the players looked after the match, as we already commented on. It showed when they thanked the fans, they clearly got a bollocking from someone in the dressing room who I still believe was maybe Koscielny. And if I know Giroud as I do, he has buried Lucas in a deep, deep hole somewhere.
I think if you look closely enough, you can see parts of Lucas in Giroud's beard. I mean, trust me, he's in there somewhere.
So Giroud ate him?
No, I think he's hidden him. He's minimized him to the point where he feels so small that he gets lost in the beard. I don't think he's actually cut him up and eaten him. I just think that he's actually hiding in there. And one of these days he'll drop out. But doesn't seem like it'll be anytime soon.
And assist a goal.
Yeah, exactly. At Tokyo Gooner, from, I'm assuming, Tokyo, asks, who is your mom? Oh, sorry, that's MOTM, man of the match. I thought he was actually asking who our listeners were. Who's your man of the match, and do you think the new system worked?
Tokyo Gooner, if you see a flamboyantly homosexual West Ham fan walking around Tokyo this weekend, that is my father, and tell him Andy says hi. Love you, Dad. I know you listen to the pod, even though you hate Arsenal. My man of the match was the Ox, 100%. I thought that he played absolutely outstanding. I know a lot of people thought it was Sanchez because of the whole goal and then the beautiful pass, the hockey assist where he was the second in line. But for me, it was the Ox once again. And I, again, have to give another runner-up to Xhaka. I thought he was absolutely incredible. Especially, Mike, the amount of yellow cards that were being handed out in this match. And he's gone again, not getting his name in the book, and I cannot wait for players to stop saying, or for fans to stop saying, but he's just so angry all the time, and he doesn't know how to control his temper.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think he's just burnt in, ironed in, every week starter. I mean, other than rotation for rest, but starting next August, and we'll see a leap in the second year from Xhaka. I think, I would hope. I'll give three other shout-outs. On a game where we really didn't perform all that well, there are a lot of players that you could point out as being man of the match or near the man of the match. Shout-out to Rob Holding. I mean, other than the first game that he got struck out there against Liverpool, he's done right every time he's been out there. I cannot figure out why he's gotten less run than Gabriel throughout the season whenever a plug-in has been needed. But I whether it's a 3 at the back or 4 at the back, I think he needs to be in there. Yeah. Potentially at the expense of Mustafi at this point. I'm sorry that he didn't cost $35 million, but Rob Holding looks to be the real deal. Petr Cech had a great game yesterday.
Yeah, he did.
Great game yesterday. A couple of reflex saves that really saved us the 3 points in my opinion. But my overall man of the match, and I'll give you a tip of the cap for this, is Theo for not playing. He was an unused sub in a game where we only used 2 subs. So that tells you something.
Yeah.
That tells you something. And we have one more question from...
Well, we didn't answer, do you think the system worked? I'm going to say that the system will work if we practice it. I don't think the system is going to work completely if we don't practice it fully and we don't have the defending part down. I mean, we could have 33 players in the back and we're still going to leak in goals. I know that you've got on the agenda the Tony Adams thing with his jazz hands, but you know what? If that's going to get Granada to fucking defend like Tony Adams, then so be it. But I think the formation, we should continue working on it in some of these weaker matches. But Mike, after the Tottenham match, what do we have to play for? Probably nothing. So why not just go out in this formation and let these players play out the rest of the season in it and just see what happens?
I'd rather see us stick with it and practice it and not go back to the 4 in the back, because the only thing worse than switching formations quickly is to keep going back and forth and have no stability there. I mean, let's let Holding bed in that position. Let's see if every once in a while, if Bellerin's fit enough to play that right wing back position.
I was about to say, I'd prefer Bellerin in a right wing back position. And if
he's healthy.
If he's healthy. And if you are going to go 4 in the back, fucking throw Gabriel right in front of him as a right back. And put Bellerin as a right wing and just see what happens. Because Gabriel, when he played back there, was okay. And then when you're assured with the speed of Bellerin, who has that little bit of more defensive mind, maybe that's the way we go. Gabriel right back, Holding Koscielny in the middle, Monreal out left. If we have to play 4 in the back, that I don't know. That's kind of what I would look at this point. Who knows, right? What do we have to lose? Nothing.
Yeah, at this point, there's very little. I mean, there's an FA Cup at stake, but other than that, we're sixth. We could end up 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th, and I don't think it really matters which one we end up in. So let's at least start getting some evolution into the squad and get good at what we're doing, and energize the squad with some new ideas. And this may have been the beginning of it, or it may have been a one-off, and we'll go right back to the same old. We'll find out soon.
Right.
Owa, who is a friend of ours, friend of the pod. I actually hung out with him before and after the West Ham and the Palace games, and he's also our guest picker of today. His Twitter handle is @BlackScorpion3, BLAK Scorpion3. And when I asked him how he came up with the Twitter handle, he said, "Well, it's a combination of my zodiac sign and I'm also black."
I thought it was the nickname for his penis.
Which I was standing with him, so the second part of that was pretty obvious to me. But I just love the creativity there. His question is, how do we convince Wojciech to come back home with the current goalkeeper trainer Tim Payton reducing the quality of our keepers instead of improving it, especially considering Ospina is rumored to be heading out to Fenerbahce? As the goalkeeping expert of the show, would you like to see Wojciech come back and be our starter next season? Or
Mike, it's an interesting question because I was talking to Tim in the backyard yesterday, and that was exactly what I said to him. I want
Tim Payton.
I want him to come back. I want to see him fight for that number 1 spot. I think Ospina is a great backup. I think Czech is probably going to call retirement at some point.
I don't think he's going to retire.
I don't know if he's going to retire next season, but I think that he's going to retire obviously sooner than later. And so, I want to see Szczesny come back. Apparently, he's been playing really well for Roma. He's married. I think they have a little kid, so he's probably matured a little bit. I heard that's what happens when you have children. So, Mike, in the next 2 weeks, I am going to mature.
Finally,
big time.
Big league.
Yeah.
2 weeks, dude. That's crazy. Yeah.
There's nothing worse than every time your wife calls you, you're just assuming she's like, it's fucking go time. But she hasn't said that yet.
And you're like, wait, I'm doing the pod. Can you wait?
I did text her saying, doing the pod, what's up?
Doing the pod, it's going to have to wait.
Yes.
I mean, would you be devastated starting the season next season with Czech in the starting role and Wojciech as the backup if we've given up Ospina on a sale because he wants to get regular starting time?
No, I wouldn't at all. And
honestly, you kind of have to promise Szczesny that one more season of you'd have to give Szczesny the Thibaut Courtois deal.
I think that if Szczesny came back in the summer, by Christmas he's pushed Czech out of the guaranteed starting position.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's nothing wrong with that because Szczesny, like Wilshere, like Gibbs, bleeds Arsenal. And we need fucking leaders on this team. We need people that want to fight for the shirt. And one thing that was brought up on the same old Arsenal podcast when you were guesting on there was, we don't have anyone that checks to players when shit hits the fan because Jack would be that only player. Szczesny will do that. He'll go to war for the crest, and that's what we need.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
That is true. Thank you for the questions. We got a lot of questions this week. Appreciate it to all of our listeners. A couple quick, just a little closure on my trip. Wanted to say that the 2 non-Arsenal related highlights of my trip. I never really talked, I don't think, that much about the Sutton game. The first Tuesday I was there, I went to Sutton and Lincoln, and they tied. It was a great game, great atmosphere. loved the guys from Gandermonium who we had on our podcast the week or two before the Sutton game that we played. Just a hilarious group of guys, very self-deprecating, very much taking the piss out of everyone that hangs out with them, including me, which was a laugh. You've talked about how lower league and non-league football has the greatest sponsors and banners that you just don't see in the Premier League. Mm-hmm. I have a picture that I'll tweet out of one of their main sponsors, which is a company called Rapid Pumping. And I don't know what they do, but I'm pretty sure that company had something to do with how I ended up with 2 kids. But the Rapid Pumping was just my favorite sponsor, and so I want to give a shout out to them in case anyone needs their services. And the Gandermonium guys, I mean, there's Taz, whose name isn't Taz, who was a guest on our show. There's Dookie, who writes a lot of their blogs, and he's called that because he wears a Duke University sweatshirt, and didn't realize, I guess, until I told him that everyone in the States hates Duke, and of course his mates thought that was pretty appropriate. A guy named Nick the Greek, who is neither named Nick nor is he Greek, and I think he's the one that mooned us when we were on the podcast. After the game, we took an Uber. 2 of us took an Uber to a train station. I think it was East Croydon or something like that, and I was so hammered from the post-game drinks in the locker room, or not the locker room, in the bar, that the whole time I was talking to the wrong guy in the front seat because I was too hammered to remember that the steering wheel is on the opposite side. So I'm talking to the driver, thinking that I was talking to one of the guys that we were with. It's just crazy time. Slept through my train stop. Woke up in some town called Cricklewood, which was not where I was trying to head. That was a proper non-league football night. And if you live or go over there, don't just look at the big teams. If there's a game with Sutton or any of the non-league teams, but preferably Sutton, go and see it because it is proper fun. Mm-hmm. And then the Dortmund game, that experience I had just a few days ago, Dortmund and Frankfurt. I won't go into detail, but if you have a chance to go to Dortmund and experience that yellow wall, do it. And you'll start coming up with ideas of what needs to happen at the Emirates. If they could just do 20% of the stuff that Dortmund does to make those games just electric, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Do you think we could replicate that at the Emirates?
You know, it's a sociological thing, and I don't know that the Arsenal fan, especially at the ticket prices that are there, you can't just inject fake atmosphere into fake fans or into, casual, rich, non-loyal, the true longtime supporters. So I don't know that you could make that happen, but you could certainly try a hell of a lot more than we do right now with safe standing, if that could possibly be implemented. That's not Arsenal's decision. With singing sections, with ticket price. There's a lot that can be done. And I actually, if I remember correctly, when we talked to Robbie from Arsenal Fan TV, he mentioned that they were in discussions with the team about having kind of a forum and a sit down and saying, here are some ideas, and a lot of them are coming from what Dortmund's doing, and let's implement some of these and see if it improves the fan experience. And I think that's vital. I think it's vital. But I mean, if you ever have a chance to do that, man, don't worry about football bigamy. It's just amazing. Mm-hmm. Pick'ems. Something else that's amazing. Pretty flat week. You're still in the lead. Andy with 85, Mike with 82, and the guest spot with 82. Any comments about how many? We got like 4 or 5 league games left. I think there's been 33 games so far. Are you going to hold on?
Probably not.
I'd have to pick the guest spot at this point as being the odds on.
We've got some good guests on the docket, Mike. I'm assuming they're going to come through and win.
That's true. Yeah, we have some fairly well-educated guests coming on in the next few weeks. So with regards to football, I don't know about their overall education, but our guest picker this week is Ola, like I mentioned before, who came in and helped us out. Special shout out, by the way, to Jack Armstrong, who also tweeted us picks, got in a little bit later than Ola's, and
the
we
guy
will come
from the moon?
Jack Armstrong? No, that was Neil Armstrong.
Oh, I thought it was Lance Armstrong.
That's the guy should be on the moon. But we'll come to you for guest picks in the next another week.
Yes, sorry, you came in second.
Silver medal. Everton at West Ham. And there's no Arsenal game in this grouping because we don't do FA Cup games, even though there's no reason why we couldn't do it. That's just the way that the rules are. Everton at West Ham. I'm going 3-1 Everton.
I'm going to go 2-1 Everton.
And Ola has it at 4-1 Everton. So pretty much West Ham
is losing.
Is awful. They blew their whole post Payet wad because they were really putting it together for a little while there, and now they're back on the losing skids. Boro, Middlesborough at Bournemouth. Got this one 2-0 to Bournemouth. Middlesbrough on the road sounds pretty freaking awful if they're that bad at home as well. Bournemouth not playing so great either, but they'll win 2-0.
Yeah, this is a 6-pointer, isn't it?
Are Bournemouth that low?
I don't know.
I don't concentrate on. I only look at the top 7. It used to be the top 4. Now it's the top 7. But yeah.
I'm gonna go.
That's for your 6-pointer, by the way. I almost slipped up on that.
Bournemouth are in 16th on 35. And Swansea have 28, so they're 7 points clear. So it's probably unding the bell. I don't think it's a 6-pointer. I'm gonna go 1-0 Bournemouth.
I don't even know if that was audible on the podcast.
It was.
Okay, 1-0 Bournemouth. All right. And Ola has it at 1-1. So an opportunity for one of us to move up or down there. Watford at Hull City. We're so freaking immature, it's ridiculous. I've got it at 2-1 Hull City. Watford seems to kind of be falling off the pace lately, and Hull does fairly well at home with their new manager. So 2-1 Hull City.
I'm going to go 0-0.
Ooh, okay, it's possible. And Ola has it at 3-2 to the Hull to the City.
Okay,
that's my new way of referring to them. Manchester United at Burnley. I'm going to go 2-2. Hoping that Burnley can put in a shift at home like they have been most of the season. What do you got?
I got United win.
Can't even say it.
I got United winning 1-0. Mkhitaryan. Offsides.
But counted. Okay. Ola has 2-0 Man United. And no word as to whether any of their goals will be offsides or not. Or what body part they're scored off of. Palace at Liverpool. This is the long-awaited return of Christian Benteke. People have been lining up to get tickets for this for years, even before he went to Crystal Palace. And they're extending the pregame show for this game to 4 hours to cover this. It's amazing. Benteke will score, but Liverpool will overcome them 2-1.
Okay. I have Liverpool 5-0.
Wow. What does that say about us? Liverpool beating a team 5-0 that we just lost to 3-0. Fun times. And Ola has it as I just wrote down 5-0 Palace. I guess you don't really want that, do you? 3-3 tie for Ola. And so thank you for the picks. Thank you for the question, Ola.
Thank you, Ola.
Great to hang out with you in London when you're in the States. When the Black Scorpion gets to the States, look me up. And so that's pretty much it, man.
That is it.
It's a one-game week. We got one new country listening to us, so we're up to number 72, and it is Mexico.
Wow, Carlos Vela with the assist.
Yeah, Carlos Vela.
He chipped the keeper.
Climbing over the wall and listening to our podcast, man. So thank you, Carlos, for that. And we'll continue on our charge to 100.
Here's a joke, Mike, for our Mexican listener. What do you call two Mexicans playing each other in soccer?
You go ahead and answer that because I don't want to be responsible.
Juan v. Juan.
And that is a joke for our Mexican listener. Thank you very much. Check us out on YouTube, Mexican listeners and others. We love being retweeted. We've had a couple of tweets that have gotten a lot of retweets, and we love kind of bantering with people. So please keep communicating with us on Twitter. Leave comments on YouTube, thumbs up. positive reviews, all that good stuff on YouTube and iTunes. It really helps us kind of get our spread our wings out there and fly. Positive wishes for the Rhodes family on any kind of impending addition to the family that may or may not occur before the next podcast.
Thank you.
All jokes aside, it'll change your life, and you'll probably never talk to me again. But but I wish you the best, buddy. And
hey, thanks.
And come on, you Gooners.